Can we learn from some of the examples that exist in the world where you do have some, very powerful growth engines? Hong Kong, for example. In Hong Kong, after 1997, with the handover to China, Hong Kong had to convince the investment community that its regulatory environment was not going to change, that China was not going to change the environment. And immediately after handover, the value of land in Hong Kong actually went down. The investment community was concerned about this, and the way Hong Kong solved that problem is with the Basic Law, which is a regulatory framework agreement for Hong Kong, agreed by the Chinese government and the authorities in Hong Kong. Singapore was thrown out of the Malaysian Federation in 1965 within a very short period of time, largely because of the use of English common law and other regulatory differences from the surrounding area. Singapore became a powerful economic engine. In fact, right now, Singapore is one of the top 6 cities in the world. So there are 6 cities in the world that have essentially left all other cities in terms of economic performance. And those are the ones you'd expect: London, New York, Paris, Tokyo, but Hong Kong and Singapore are the other 2. And they are orders of magnitude different from other cities around the world. So I talked about London. You might wonder, well, London's pretty old. Why is London on this slide? Well, the city of London, the square mile, the financial district of London itself, is under a different regulatory environment. It is an enterprise city. It has a different financial set of regulations. It is run by a corporate board. It has, in fact, a chief lobbyist who is it could only happen in the City of London. He's called the Remembrancer. And what he does is he protects the City of London, the financial freedoms in the City of London, from encroachment by foreign governments. Foreign governments for these purposes include Brussels, obviously, but also Westminster. And the City of London had an appointed MP until 1944, not elected, an appointed MP, to protect the regulatory system in the City of London, which is obviously a huge economic generator for the world, but for the UK in particular. And then, of course, where you're going next year, Dubai, created very much out of nothing, designed as an air hub primarily, brought in trade finance, brought in financial services as a result of that, and was very, very effective. These are all places that are characterized by enormous amounts of entrepreneurial energy. They're governed by regulatory systems that deliver open trade, property rights protection, and the rule of law, merit-based competition that creates an environment where insurgent companies can actually be successful. So there's nothing in the way of an entrepreneur's vision and dreams. We heard some amazing stories about that this morning. But there's nothing in the way of what you want to do except your own ideas, the capability of your own ideas, and the willingness to commit hard work and to commit labor to realize your vision and your dreams. Well, in developing countries and emerging markets, there are many barriers to that. Lack of access to financial capital, very inflexible labor markets, very high cost of inputs, energy in particular, in many countries is very, very high, much higher than it is in developed countries. And so, can we develop the kinds of regulatory systems that lower developing country risk, at least in these zones, and create an environment that is inviting for capital, for investment, both foreign investment and domestic investment, and creates an environment where entrepreneurs can flourish. So that's the sort of problem side. These are the problems. So how do we actually do this? Well, we connect governments with developer groups and other stakeholders, international development agencies, others, who want to do this kind of work. And many of these cities are actually being built around the world right now. So, for example, without us, Duqm in Oman is building a special economic zone that creates a different regulatory environment, recognizing that they're competing with Dubai and recognizing that they're competing with some other places in the region. They're creating a zone where many of the barriers and the impediments to growth in Oman are eliminated just in the zone. So the way we do this, and our special expertise, is really in the area of trade and competition, and what are the barriers, the economic barriers, the legal barriers to growth. So we identify the constraints to economic activity, and I've named a few of them, but there are obviously many. we advise the elimination of those constraints inside the zone. And again, it's much easier for governments to do that. The nationwide reform is the first best solution. That's what people want to do, but they find that very difficult to do. In a zone, you can actually do some of those reforms. You can create demonstration models where you actually show people the results of actually creating an economic environment that is conducive to growth, the Hong Kongs, the Singapores, the Dubais. And then we facilitate the creation of a regulatory system that actually delivers economic growth. So I was recently at the Global Competitiveness Forum in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, and we have a project with King Abdullah Economic City in Saudi Arabia. And the head of the zone in Saudi Arabia was asked, well, what's your investor proposition? What's your offering? Why would people come to this place? And he talked about subsidies, and he talked about the tax breaks, and he talked about the access in geographic terms. But that's not really good enough to create real economic activity. You have to show investors that there's a level playing field for competition, that property rights are protected, and you have an open trading environment.